EOS gets rammed. But Dan Larimer has a plan on how to fix it. NEO announces its much-awaited plans for decentralization as well as NEO 3.0. The Monaco card processes its first transactions and takes over Crypto.com. IBM wins a $1 billion Australian dollar contract to develop tech initiatives for the government. Ethereum fees skyrocket 7,000% because of a crypto exchange called Fcoin. Waltonchain announces its food traceability system, WTC-food. Ontology announces cooperation with CCX credit technology. We've got all your headlines mixed with some daily market analysis. I'm Elio Trades, and your FUD TV news update starts now. Welcome back, FUD Nation. As you can see, Bitcoin is hovering. We've just been doing this sort of squiggle pattern. We had a nice little pump that was obviously, in my opinion, a result of the closing of the monthly futures. We see Bitcoin dominance at 42.4%. We see the 24-hour volume just above 16 billion. We have the market caps really hovering here at about 270 billion. Hopping over to the total market cap, we can see that the 6-month pattern here just resembles that we are starting to look like we're reversing. Obviously, we didn't have this bounce like we did in February where we really bounced off our lows and created a lot of bullishness up to the sort of almost $500 billion mark. And then we had these lows again back in April, and now we've gone and touched those lows, but we're not quite, we're having even potentially a less steep recovery that we did from April into May here. So it's going to be interesting to see here. Maybe we're consolidating even more around that $7,000 mark or the mid $6,000 mark on Bitcoin. And you can see here that we're about 270. We touched lows of in the 230s. That's the lowest that we've been, our year-to-date low. Hopping over to our biggest gainers in the top 100, we can see Loom Network is the clear winner here with almost a 40% pump. They were actually over 40% at one point. This is a really cool project. Obviously, they just put up their Plasma Cash implementation on GitHub as a proof of concept, a demonstration. I think they're still looking for auditors. They still want to make sure before they actually put it out that the code is secure and solid. They're a very cool project, and that might explain their pump. They're also having a hackathon in Shanghai, followed shortly by HShare and Polymath, but obviously Loom Network almost tripling the gains that are shared by HShare and Polymath rather. And if you have not been following this whole RAM debacle with EOS, let me explain it to you very simply. Essentially, the way EOS works is the EOS network will have a certain amount of RAM available. And in order to buy that RAM, all you need is EOS tokens. You don't need to be a special entity or you don't need to have a DApp on the network, or you don't need to be running some software. You can literally just use your EOS tokens and go and buy essentially processing power from the network with RAM. So what's happened is there has been a speculative value being placed on the RAM of what future RAM needs will be. Essentially, speculators are buying up RAM saying, hey, I bet in the future this will be worth more, or I bet there will be a pinch situation where people will need to pay very high prices for RAM. And that is exactly what happened. All of a few days ago, RAM had skyrocketed almost to a full EOS per kilobyte of RAM. What's happening now is if you want to go speculate that, hey, I believe more projects are coming to EOS, I believe that they're going to need RAM, and I believe that the price of that RAM is going to skyrocket, well, you can go and invest speculatively on the price of RAM. But regardless, what we're seeing here is that there's a secondary market here being built on EOS of RAM. So if you want to participate in that, you could potentially end up with some nice gains. If you buy the RAM, sit on it till there's a spike in the price of RAM and then get rid of it, you could make yourself a healthy profit. I'm not saying you should do that or that's good for the ecosystem, but that's simply just something that's been built into the government structure of EOS. Right now, Dan Larimer has come up with his own solution for the RAM situation. So Dan says he's working on a stop loss and a buy sell for RAM that should boost liquidity and give you all some more tools to help discover the price. So it's more about price discovery. The stop loss will sell RAM via the market maker if the market price is less than X. Essentially, it's saying that if you bought RAM for a certain amount, you could essentially make sure that you don't lose money off of it. Dan also explains that you can short the RAM price. If you think the RAM is overextended in price, you can essentially short it and you can put up EOS as collateral through their market maker. It's an interesting solution, but essentially just creating this very complex market for RAM. I think it's smart, but also a bit complex. It's interesting to see how this is going to play out. It's hard for me to predict what the future needs of the RAM will be for EOS, especially as side chains and other chains come into the picture. It's going to be hard for anyone to decide, oh, well, this is the right price of RAM, because there's so many variables involved. But this is nonetheless a very interesting, very kind of complex and technical topic that is going to affect the entire EOS community. Now, there have been a lot of claims that NEO is too centralized and that because they're running all their own nodes, that this is a centralized process and that it can't be trusted, XYZ. If you've been following this at all, you know that Da Hongfei and the team over at NEO have been very transparent about out their centralized state, admitting it's quite centralized at current. However, they do have plans to slowly decentralize it. The reason why they're doing it slow and methodically is that they're upgrading the protocol very rapidly, and they want to make sure that their nodes upgrade very rapidly as well and act quickly so as not to jeopardize the actual functionality of their mainnet. So, you know, you could like it, you could hate it, you could object to it, but I do think that there is some method to the madness. They're not centralized for the sake of as a permanent state of being. They're trying to get their protocol to a point where the infrastructure can support the projects that it needs to support before essentially effectively making it more decentralized and allowing for election of other nodes, which will be happening at the end of 2018. Their first step towards this decentralization is coming with the election of a City of Zion node. Oh my God, Belgium just scored again. Oh, I don't know if you're watching this game. I know probably a lot of you don't care about the World Cup, but I'm sort of watching it in the background here. I don't remember what I was talking about. Anyway, so NEO is becoming more decentralized. It's going to be great. And by 2019, we'll have nodes run outside of the City of Zion, outside of NEO Council. And so it will be a much more decentralized process. But for now, they're really keeping it close to the chest because they want to make sure that as they upgrade their infrastructure and their protocol, the nodes are moving in lockstep. And I'm sure that will continue to be the case even after they elect other sort of less centralized parties to participate. We also got word that the Monaco card has processed its first batch of transactions. It's shipped out its cards. They also took over crypto.com, which is a very useful website, I'm quite sure, and will become a popular one. And they are changing over their name to crypto.com or crypto. So they're going to be a very much so a player in the crypto payments game, allowing you to spend your cryptocurrencies via credit card. They're a cool wallet sort of solution here. And I believe that wallet solutions are simply the missing link right now in our crypto ecosystem. It's just too hard to make use of your crypto right now. Going through 10 steps to buy, sell, trade crypto is something that us crypto lovers, us crypto heads might be a fan of, we might put up with, but in the future, something my grandma's gonna do, that's not gonna work for grandmama. We've just gotten word that IBM has inked a 1 billion Australian dollar, about 740 million US dollar contract with the Australian government to research into blockchain technology, making Australia one of the top 3 digital governments by 2025 is the goal. And they'll be investing into quantum computing, artificial intelligence, and blockchain research. They're going to be processing all sorts of data. It's just another huge leap forward, showing that IBM is really cornering, or not cornering, but really becoming a cornerstone rather of this blockchain world that we're creating, this infrastructure of the future of blockchain. I'm sure you all have heard about Ethereum's 7,000% fee hike that recently kicked in, and that was because of a fiasco caused by this coin called F coin. And if that could be any more artfully phrased, I don't know. This effing F coin really effed up the effing Ethereum network. They allowed for coins to be added to the exchange by essentially deposits. So it was creating something called a Sybil attack, where you had just a flooding of the network of transactions that were simply a flood for the sake of the flood. There was not actually a utility to it. It was a voting process. So Fcoin really effed this whole thing up in an effing superb way. What was the real purpose behind this? They thought no publicity is bad publicity. Here we are talking about them, so it must have worked. This is the way of the world in 2018, and Fcoin might have just figured out the effing formula to getting a bunch of free publicity, not just on all the news sites, but even on, somewhat respected YouTube channels like this. Now, we just got word that Status has entered into a partnership cooperation with OMG Go. Status allows for a messenger-like sending of cryptocurrency along with a suite of dApps. They're a pretty cool project. They have a nice platform. And of course, they've been very keen on scaling their platform. Of course, that is the big focus of OMG Go with their plasma chain that they're going to be implementing in the near future. So the partnership makes total sense. They'll also be leveraging OMG Go's white label SDK, which will allow for them to have much more scalable transactions throughout their messenger. I really like Status as a project. I'm very bullish on messaging in general as a way to bring about mass adoption. I mean, think about how we send money. It's like PayPal, Venmo. It's sort of like messaging. Once you build that in, obviously Facebook allows for the sending of money. But we just heard that Line is going to be announcing their own cryptocurrency messaging service and exchange service. So we could probably expect that Line by Naver is going to allow for sending and receiving of cryptocurrency within their messaging ecosystem. Of course, also, if you believe and buy the hype that Coinbase is going to be purchased by Facebook, and I certainly do, as I see the writing on the wall with prior Facebook executives going to Coinbase, and you just heard that Facebook's lead developer has just been promoted to the lead blockchain developer. So I believe that this is happening. The writing's on the wall. I believe that they're going to be embedding cryptocurrency transfers into their messaging app. I don't know if it's going to happen through Coinbase, but if I was a betting man, I'd certainly bet that that's how they're going to do it. At any rate, this is a big partnership, and so in the short term, it makes me very bullish on Status. In the long term, I think that all these messengers might be overridden by the big messaging services that just start putting cryptocurrency send and receive functions within their messaging apps. I think it's all just a really wonderful sign of mass adoption in the not too distant future. And Waltonchain just announced its food traceability system, WTC-food. Honestly, if you've been following Waltonchain closely, this shouldn't surprise you very much, as Walton has really just been tackling all elements of the supply chain management ecosystem. If you know my channel, you know that I'm very bullish on Walton. That has not changed, and this is just a testament to how they keep increasing the legitimacy. And of course, look at how sleek this marketing video is. Increased attention on marketing will help sort of increase the trust that people have in their brand, because I certainly have a tremendous amount of bullishness and trust in their brand. Ontology just partnered with CCX Credit Technology. Now this is huge because CCX Credit Technology is China's leading credit technology service provider, integrating more than 20 years of credit risk management experience of CCX Group with financial technologies such as big data, artificial intelligence, blockchain, and more. This is yet another foray from Ontology into bridging real world sort of applications like credit investigation with their trust ecosystem on the blockchain. To me, just more bullishness out of the Ontology project. And funds are certainly seifu over at Binance, as they are on track for a $1 billion year of profits. That's right, $1 billion in profits, and that's not counting what they're burning. That's not counting any of the other metrics. They're going to be putting away a cold $1 billion in profits that even if there is a jeopardization of security, we can expect that they're going to be able to cover it because they just have so much cash stored away. So good for you, Binance. Certainly a leader in the space, and we're happy to have you as one of our leading exchanges. Quickly, we just got word that the Swiss Stock Exchange is going to be introducing a cryptocurrency exchange. Extremely bullish, more accessibility, more on-ramps, more ways for people to buy, trade cryptocurrencies is a good thing. Huobi Pro just launched in Australia, more bullishness, more accessibility, another great exchange just expanding its offering. The decentralized cloud platform Daddy just launched, and of course that is a challenge to the big four. And in case you're still paying attention, YouTube just got added to the defendants list for the BitConnect Ponzi scheme case. Of course, YouTube was where a lot of people found out about BitConnect and became indoctrinated by a lot of the shillers. I'm not going to name names, but I would just say that there's other YouTubers that shilled BitConnect very, very hard, and they're still putting out tons of videos to this day, and their followings maybe don't understand that they were part of the problem here, part of this terrible toxic mess that caused a lot of people to lose a lot of money because they didn't fully understand the investments that they were pitching. I think that BitConnect is possibly the best example of all of how you just can't trust any secondhand research, and even someone who's pitching other good projects might stumble in and start pitching something that is of dubious nature because they just don't know better, or the crowd herd mentality seems to justify it. So at any rate, maybe YouTube can help repay a little bit of this. I certainly think YouTube is I don't really believe YouTube's at fault, but if it ends up being that YouTube digs into their tremendous coffers to help make right some of the defendants that were wronged by this BitConnect Ponzi scheme, I certainly believe that they were a distribution mechanism of the message of BitConnect, which was heavily leveraged on social media and referral fees, which of course takes advantage of our social media generation. I hope you enjoyed today's news update. Obviously, if you're not subscribed to this channel, I encourage you to hit that sub button, hit that bell notification, and you'll be made aware whenever we put out new content. My name's Elio Trades, you're watching FUD TV, and I'll see you very, very soon on the next episode.